I've like got really stuffed up all of a sudden.
My hands are sweaty.
It's so as an update, we started recording the episode on Cupid at like 9:20.
Yeah, something like that.
It is now 11:40.
Yay!
We're on the last episode of the night.
Whoop whoop.
So things are getting crazy for Love Month.
Well, Kylie doesn't know what I'm covering.
No, I don't. I'm very peculiar on what is going to happen next. So I think we're just going to jump in.
Yes, let's get this one because this one is, I don't know how many pages I did, but I'll try to get through it nice and smooth. Hopefully without any interruptions because Layla is being difficult
shadow
tonight.
puppet for her. She is very, Layla is Jamie's dog. She's very much into shadows.
Yeah.
So this whole... I just saw something fall. So this whole time we've just been entertaining her with our hand in the shadow.
Ugh.
It's the only thing that keeps her calm.
Good Lord.
All right, go ahead and jump right in.
All right. So since this month is all about romance, both romantic, platonic, and let's not forget toxic, I decided today would be kind of like all three in a jumbled weird mess. Kind of, not really, but yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Britney Spears? No, I'm just kidding. Not toxic love.
So we all know that I am a big fan of
Egypt.
of series. Just series in general.
Oh, okay.
I love doing like different series and stuff, especially the mythology ones.
Wonders of the World.
I love Wonders of the World. But there is one that we haven't done for a while that was from our underwater days.
Underwater days?
Yeah, like our quality.
Oh,
So,
good old days underwater. Let me think. Disaster?
No.
What is it?
Our Bombshell series.
Oh my god, that was like episodes 2 and 3.
Yeah.
You're doing a Bombshell?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I'm so excited.
Uh-huh.
I'm so into these.
Mm-hmm. So previously on this podcast, we have talked about 2 other bombshells, Marilyn Monroe, Audrey Hepburn,
Episodes
our queens.
2 and 3. We tried to make them one episode, and then they ended up, it would have been a 3-hour episode, so we cut it in half.
Yep.
We sound like we're underwater, but go listen to it. Our underwater days. When we were scuba diving. Just kidding. Okay, who's it? I'm excited. I'm sorry.
So these 2 women were so influential during their careers up until their deaths, and not to mention their breathtaking beauties that are still remembered to this day, as always. So there are endless bombshells during this peak era from the 1930s to around the 1970s era.
Yeah.
Kind of late 60s, 1970s kind of turned into a different era. And the one that I'm going to be talking about today is still one of the most renowned actresses of the era, even though her career was short. I am discussing Grace Kelly.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I cannot believe we haven't done a bombshell in so long.
I know. And I honestly got my idea of Grace Kelly because she is a princess, or was.
Yeah.
And I saw like something about it on like a weird history like kind of thing about her and about her husband. And so I was just like, oh my God, I have to cover her because they have this whirlwind romance.
Wow.
That and she's a bombshell. So I was like, oh my God, I have to continue the series with her.
Oh my God. Let's go.
Yes. So her story covers also, and she even admitted that her romance, like her love story with her husband and her life in general was like a fairy tale of like how everything came to be and placed and whatnot. So let's get into it. But before we dive in, I just wanted to say where I got my information from. So I got it from biography.com, kinfolk.com, and pgfusa.org, which is Princess Grace Foundation.
Okay.
So that one was really helpful. They were all very helpful in their own like individual ways of like her story.
Mm-hmm.
So to start our story, let's talk about the people who gave her life. So Grace's father was John Brendan Kiley Sr., also known as Jack. Jack was a champion sculler on the U.S. rowing team and would go on to win 3 gold medals in the Olympics.
Oh my God.
So he was quite the athlete.
Damn.
Mm-hmm. Jack also had more than 3 gold medals to his name. He was also a self-made millionaire. So she came from a very wealthy, good family. So, along with his family, Jack worked and owned a brick business on the East Coast. And with brick on the rise, like every single building was like being built out of brick.
Yeah.
He made lots of moolah from it. So
wow.
He was very successful. So Grace's mother was Margaret Catherine Mayer. Margaret was a competitive swimmer, a former model, and one of the first coaches of the women's athletics, mostly swimming team, at the University of Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So she was also she was an athlete of some extent. So they were doing very well off.
Yeah, I was going to say, they must have some money.
Exactly. Yeah. When you're a self-made millionaire. Yeah. So between these two people, it was evident that they were competitive, strong, and very confident. Jack and Margaret would go on to have 4 children. Their children would be Jack Jr., Peggy, Grace, and Lizanne. So Grace would be the 3rd eldest. So pretty much the order that I went into was how it is. So
okay.
She was kind of like the middle child. She wasn't the youngest, but she wasn't like strict middle.
I'm going to pause for a second.
All right. So Grace was born on November 12th, 1929 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Woo!
Whoop, whoop. So she was the 3rd out of the 4. And unlike her siblings, she was actually the black sheep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So as a kid, she was sick often, and she would grow into adulthood. She was very shy. She was not an athlete like her other siblings or like her parents. She was kind of just like the one that stood in the corner as like her siblings were like playing fetch or throw or I don't know.
Fetch.
They're not dogs, but they were just like playing like
catch
sports.
The ball.
Yeah, and she just wasn't about it. She didn't really care. She was just like, yeah, whatevs. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So, due to her parents' pretty strict upbringing between the kids and their athletic prowess, they were very competitive in the kids. And this was very constant between all of the Kiley kids. So, competition was very big for all of them. And Grace was just kind of like, I don't really care.
Yeah.
But this also made her very shy because there was so much competitiveness to get like their parents' approval that she just kind of didn't really stick out to like their favorites or as like a favorite. She wasn't like a favorite, I guess.
She probably didn't like care as much.
Yeah. So with her getting older, she just didn't care about sports, but she fell in love with theater.
Yes, my girl.
Yes.
I totally understand.
Her passion of wanting to be an actress stemmed from her 2 uncles, Walter C. Kiley and George Kiley, who had professions in theater. So they really encouraged her to become a performer, to really like follow her dreams. They told her, they're like, you don't need to be an athlete like your parents, like do what you want to do. And because they had backgrounds in theater, they're like, hey, here's something that you might be interested in. And that really helped, like, because she was so shy, they're like, hey, this might help you, like, to what you're feeling inside, put that out on the stage. And she loved that. And her shyness didn't go away ever. Like, she was very kind of just to herself, even when she became like a big name. She never really said much, and this drove the media crazy.
Yeah.
She was very stern.
I love that when actors are like kind of to themselves.
Yeah.
And then you see them act and you're like, oh my God, they're so good.
Well, yeah, she didn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
She was just like, I'm doing my own thing. And it irritated her. that people wanted to be so involved.
Right.
She's like, I'm doing my own thing. So while attending the Stevens School, a private school in Philadelphia, Grace really started to find her interest in the arts. So George had a huge role in her really wanting to pursue her dreams of being a Hollywood actress. Because this was like the big thing during the 30s, 40s.
Right.
Was like prime time of acting. So after graduating high school, Grace would make a giant leap in pursuing her career in acting, but instead of moving to Hollywood, she moved to New York City. Her parents were not happy about this idea. Jack and Margaret were like, I don't like this idea. Jack actually looked down at the idea of actors. He saw them as just barely getting by, just like he didn't like the idea of what they did because he's like, it's not real. There's what's actually really going for it. Like he didn't find it entertaining. So seeing his daughter do that, he was like, absolutely not. But
you should be an athlete instead because that's so much better.
It's like, relax, dude.
But Grace didn't care. She still pushed forward with her dreams and left for New York City in 1947. So it was just after World War II. So Grace would enroll at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. While going to school, Grace would go on to work a part-time job as a model for Powers Modeling Agency. So she started out as a part-time model, and this woman is drop dead gorgeous.
Mm-hmm, she is.
And her looks actually became huge. Like, it became iconic. Like, because she was so very, like, she didn't wear a lot of makeup or eyeliner. She had a very more natural subtle look. So people are like, oh, she has the Grace Kelly look. If they're talking about, like, someone who has a more natural look, they're like, Grace Kelly, because like she maybe wore like red lipstick, which was big at the time, but it was very faint.
Yeah.
She just had a beautiful face. Mm-hmm. Yes, it was gorgeous. So she's very well known for her look. She had this delicate porcelain skin that was just smooth, straight. I don't know how she did it. What was she using?
Right.
Lard, I don't know. She had these
Lard. Sorry.
I don't know what they use. She had these beautiful green eyes, these big green eyes, and golden blonde hair. Like, everybody was in love with her.
Yeah.
And she was very small. She had like a small frame too, which was very big at the time.
Right.
But like she became one of the top models in the agency because she just had that look that everybody, like every woman wanted to be her. Every guy fawned over her. Mm-hmm. And she kind of like, she was very humble about all of it. She kind of just wanted to keep pursuing her dreams. Like she didn't really care about modeling when it came down to it. She wanted to be an actress. She wanted to perform. She didn't want to model for her looks.
Right.
That was just a part-time job to get her by living in New York City, which that's just says a lot about her.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I mean, I have nothing against models, but like for her, she was dedicated. She was like, okay, yeah, like people love my look. I guess I'll model for them. Like, okay. So while attending the school, Grace would start to participate in plays at the Bucks County Playhouse in 1949. And she finally got noticed when she was seen in the play The Father. So this would lead to her first movie role in the 1951 14 Hours, which was a very small role. I believe she played a wife. But it was like maybe a couple lines, if that. So,
okay.
And she was 22 then, so she was starting young.
Yeah.
With all of this. It was soon after the following year that she would get a role in the 1952 movie High Noon. So High Noon would become a big movie for Grace. She would work alongside a famous actor of the time, Gary Cooper. Granted, he was 30 years older than her.
Ugh.
This would become a common character part between Grace and her co-actor. So this was if you watch her movies, I tried to find any movies like on any of the streaming services and none of her movies are on them.
Weird.
which is so disappointing because I really wanted to watch a few of them. But
yeah, that is disappointing.
I didn't get time, but yeah, like in all of her big roles that she had when she was still acting, all of her male counterparts were significantly older than her. That's how it always was. And she was getting kind of tired of that. Eventually, she was just like, but that was a very big thing during this era, is that all the men were significantly older than the women.
Yeah.
Because they wanted the women to look fresh and young and delicate.
They wanted the male to look more successful.
Exactly.
And a way of doing that is making them older.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for her, this just became a normal thing, and she just didn't really care for it. And this would go on to, you would see the shift in her characters later on in her career of her not wanting to be this, like, just this side piece.
Right.
For this older man. She's like, no, I want to do something a little bit more meaningful. And they're like, well, it's not going to make any money. She's like, I don't care. It's what I want to do.
I love that she just, like, always knew her worth.
Exactly.
From the very beginning.
Exactly.
She's like, no, I deserve this.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And I think that really helped with, like, her parents being confident.
Yeah.
Trying, even though she was very shy, she was confident about her work.
Right.
Because she saw her parents put so much effort into their job and their careers and everything, that even though she is the black sheep of the family and she did something opposite for what they're doing, and she's on the shy side, like, she doesn't care. Like, she's still going to put all of her effort into her career, into her passion. Like, that's what she was going to do no matter what. So High Noon would really turn Grace into a star overnight. After this film, Grace would go back to New York to continue working on television shows. So she kind of was just doing the thing, going back and forth between Hollywood and New York. And she wanted to make time for all of that. In less than a year, Grace would get the call for MGM, Goldwyn Mayer, which is, I guess, it's like a brand, like a movie brand or whatever, kind of like how Paramount and stuff is. That was very big.
Like a company.
Yeah, a company.
Film company.
Yeah.
Cool.
So they wanted to test a role for Grace as a wife in a jungle movie, now famously called Mogambo. This was her first big hit. So she was supposed to be the wife of, like, this safari dude. I don't know. And she's like the wife in distress or something. I don't know. So Mogambo would be a role that pushed her career forward tremendously. Mogambo would come out in 1953 and starred huge stars at the time, Clark Gable and Ava Gardner. Ava Gardner sounds very familiar.
It does.
I don't know Clark Gable.
No, me neither.
So the movie would be shot in Kenya, where she would stay there for months intense while shooting.
Dang, they actually went to Kenya?
Yeah. Well, that was very big right then, because they didn't have, like, great back set or, like, dropping.
They didn't have, like, sets that were, like, good.
Good sets.
Yeah, you know what we're saying, guys.
I don't know.
It's midnight.
But yeah, they literally slept in tents for, like, months.
Oh my god.
Just
that
so
is
they
commitment.
can film. Yeah, and supposedly she had some sort of relationship with Clark Gable, but I don't know.
Or maybe he just claimed that. Just kidding.
So the movie would become so big, Ava Gardner would go on winning an Oscar for this role. Grace would go on being nominated for an Oscar as Best Supporting Actress and winning the same title for the Golden Globe Awards.
Aww.
Mm-hmm. Which is pretty big for, like, it being her third role.
Yeah, it usually takes a while to get that. Yeah. Leonardo. Leonardo DiCaprio.
So with receiving the role, MGM also came to Grace asking her for a 7-year contract with them, or 7 films. I think it was 7 year. So not completely signing her life away to the studio, Grace would go on to ask that every other year she would take off so she could focus on theater work and to stay in New York. So I think it was like 7 movies. So she was like, I'll do this, but I also want to do my theater work in New York because I love it. I love doing theater. And they're like, okay. They agreed to it. She's like, great. Good. She would go on to make more alterations to her contract over the year. So it wasn't like set in stone. She's like, I want to change what I want, whatever feels comfortable. And people were so impressed with her, like, and entranced by her. They're like, okay, we'll do that. So yeah, she knew her worth. She's like, if you want me to do this or just make movies, like, we're going to do it my way.
Yeah, she's not settling for less.
Mm-hmm. So with her attention now on the eye of directors in Hollywood, she got the attention of a very famous director that we all know and love, Alfred Hitchcock. He wanted her for his movie Dial M for Murder in 1954.
He's an actor?
Director.
I thought he was a... I'm really bad at names. I thought he was like a wilderness explorer. I'm not even kidding. No. Also, I realized I never gave you water.
Oh, I'm fine.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry.
No, he is the director of Psycho, Birds. Okay.
Whenever I hear that name, it just feels like he was an explorer.
Oh god.
All right, sorry. I don't know names.
So almost immediately she would put her input into the film. And she would actually have a really strong relationship with Alfred for years that they worked together. Or like, I think they worked together for like 3 or 4 years. She was in quite a bit of his movies, actually.
Huh.
So her input, and one of her inputs would be her wardrobe in the films. She was a huge fashion icon as well. Like, she was really big. It would go into like her being princess. Like, she was always known not just for her pretty face and like her acting, but also for her attire.
Yeah.
She was very set of like, I think this is what my character would wear, and not just like one of, for instance, like answering the door. She's like, I'm not going to be all dolled up to answer the door when it's like 10 o'clock at night. She's like, I want to be in actual like pajamas and stuff.
Oh my god, I fucking love her.
She wanted to be real. She's like, I'm not going to answer the door wearing a dress.
Feminist icon.
Literally, she was great. So in 1954 would be a very busy year for Grace, coming out with like different movies, doing different things. And she would, in this specific year, she would act in her most popular roles of her career. She would go on to film the movies The Bridges at Toko Rai, Rear Window, which was another Alfred Hitchcock, The Country Girl, and Green Fire. Grace would win roles as Best Actress for The Country Girl at the Oscars, Golden Globes, National Board of Review, and the New York Film Critics Circle.
Wow.
This was a huge movie. She even beat Judy Garland at the time, who was running against her for Star is Born.
Oh my god.
The OG Star is Born.
Yeah, that one's good.
Rear Window labeled her as Best Actress for the National Board of Review and the New York Film Critics Circle. Grace was on a roll. So as her fame was growing, Grace held her head high against the studio. If they tried to sell her in fluff pieces, Grace made it known that she was not going to stand for it. She's like, I'm not going to be some backstone, like, wall wife. Like, no, I want to be in these interesting roles. And I think that's why she really got along with Alfred Hitchcock, because his ideas were kind of out there. And she appreciated them. She loved them. She loved the different weird ideas that he had. She really appreciated that. So unlike many of the other actresses in the era, she didn't need to worry about her salary at stake due to her wealthy family. She also didn't take fondly to the press. So even she had such a big I have to say her confidence also came because she didn't have to worry about like if she was gonna get cut off through like the studio, or they're gonna like cut her short, because she probably had a trust fund. She had a trust fund. So she had like nothing to worry about. So she really made her point across. She's like, I don't care about if you're going to cut me short. Like, I'm going to get my point across. And if you want me to work with you, you better listen.
Yeah, she made it to where like she's the one in control.
Yeah.
And they would lose her. She wouldn't lose them.
Exactly.
Which is like, not many actors can get to that point if they don't have anything else to go back to, you know?
I mean, look at Marilyn Monroe.
Right.
She was pretty much being thrown around.
Yeah.
It was
in the same roles over and over again.
Yeah, it was not healthy. And I mean, like, Audrey Hepburn did pretty well for herself. Like,
yeah,
I mean, she
kind of had a similar mindset as Grace. I feel like
she was very strong-headed, and she lived a long, healthy life.
Yeah.
So she did not appreciate looking like more of a press celebrity than an actress that she was. So she hated press conferences or any interviews with like the press and stuff. She hated it. She just would get so frustrated with them because she was like, leave me alone. Like I don't have any point for you.
Yeah.
So it was also mentioned that Grace was a hard woman to crack, like trying to really get to know her and stuff. She kept mostly to herself and had a hard time letting people in. This could have been to her always being shy and using her extroverted side when acting, but she always seemed to keep to herself. Like in press articles or just people talking about her, they're like, you never know what's going on. Like she's not a book you can read. Like you have to dig in to really like figure out about her.
She's like a dictionary.
Yeah, so like this frustrated the press because they're like, what is going on with her? Like she doesn't react. She kind of just does her own thing, going back and forth from Hollywood to New York. So in 1955, she went off what MGM wanted and her PR agent wanted, and decided to accept to attend the 1955 Cannes Film Festival. While there, Paris Match magazine would go to Grace and ask her to do a photo op at Prince Rainier's palace in Monaco. So she was at the festival. You have this magazine, people come up to her and be like, we loved you when you were modeling. You are a great icon for acting. We would love to do this photo op with you here in Monaco. And she was just like, you know what? I don't care. Let's do it.
YOLO.
Yeah, because her PR was just like, no, don't go do any. They didn't even want her to go to the film festival.
Jesus.
They're like, you got to bump out these movies. And she's like, deuces, no, I'm going to go have some fun. And she did. She ended up going to meeting her future husband. So not expecting much and wanting to prove that she had a life outside of the film lot, Grace accepted and would attend the photo op. There she would meet her future husband, Prince Rainier of Monaco. Like Grace, Prince Rainier was big in the news, but it wasn't for being in the film industry because he's a prince.
Right.
Prince Rainier would be in the media because it was becoming expected that Prince Rainier marry soon and conceive an heir for Monaco.
Of course.
Which is always big, especially for princes.
Yeah.
If he didn't do so, especially in this short time frame, then France would take back control of the region.
Holy shit, that's no pressure at all.
Yeah, so he had a lot riding on that. Yeah, and I think he was quite a bit older than her, I believe.
How much time did they give him for that?
I have no idea. I'm guessing it's soon because he seemed quite a bit older than her, like not that much old. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. He was older than her for sure. So I think he just had his fun and they're like, you need to settle down or you're never going to.
Right.
And of course, France was probably just breathing down their neck like, is this going to happen or not?
They're like, I'm ready.
Exactly. So the two would meet while Grace was at the palace and they hit it off pretty well. As soon as she returned back to the U.S., Rainier would immediately start writing to her and a relationship from there would form. So they pretty much just were like, oh, hi, how's it going? And he just was completely starstruck by her beauty, of course.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he ever watched her movies. I didn't see anything about that, but he just absolutely just was infatuated with her. It would be 6 months later that Prince Rainier would go to the United States to make Grace his wife. He wanted this bad.
Commitment.
Yeah, he was like, I gotta have her. So between the two, even though they lived in different worlds, they found themselves having a lot in common. While visiting, Rainier would meet Kiley's family, and only after a couple days after, Prince Rainier would propose with a 10.47 carat diamond ring.
Oh my God.
Grace happily said yes.
Yeah.
But I think like they got along so well because they had like certain expectations in the media, and they were both pretty strong-headed people. Like, they had a purpose and they wanted to pursue it. Like, they had a job and they really wanted to do it. And they kind of, like, found a common ground in that. But she had no idea what was to come.
Oh, no.
No one does.
Right.
Hallmark lies to us. But it's okay. I still love them. So, before the engagement could be final, Rainier's doctors would have to look at Grace over to make sure that she would be able to have kids. So they had to do like full scans and stuff like that to be like...
Because if not, she's out.
Exactly.
That would suck.
Yeah, that would. So it is very odd, but I get it.
Yeah.
She came out clean though.
Can't let France sneak up.
No. It's just like, it's so sad that like they fell in love, and if she didn't get that bill of health, then they would have had to end their relationship right there.
Right. That's sad.
Yeah, but that comes with the title, I guess. Whatever. So so they get engaged. So in 1955, Grace would go on to film another motion picture film, To Catch a Thief. This is the one that I wanted to watch, but I didn't get to.
I feel like I've seen that. It sounds really familiar.
Yeah, it's one of her last ones. I don't think it's the last one, but it's one of the few. So Grace would work alongside famous actor Cary Grant. This would be her final film for Alfred Hitchcock, the other being Rear Window. So I didn't know To Catch a Thief was Alfred Hitchcock. Interesting.
I still feel like he's an explorer.
So in 1956 would be a big year for Grace. Between her wedding and the massive success of a movie. Before either, she would be a flop of a movie, The Swan. So The Swan was like a big flop, and she was kind of disappointed, but she kind of just kept going. So after The Swan, she decided to have her final movie with MGM be in a musical with Bing Crosby, Frank Sinatra, Celeste Holm, and Louis Armstrong in High Society.
Oh my goodness.
What a cast. Oh my God.
I love High Society.
Oh,
it is so good.
It is. That is
a cast.
What a cast.
Yeah.
All of them. Oh my God. This movie with all these renowned actors and actresses would have the film blow up on screen, which makes sense. I didn't know Frank Sinatra acted.
Yeah.
They all could have.
It's a good movie.
I mean, they all kind of sound the same in that era.
Yeah. It's like one style.
It was also 1956 that Grace would marry the Prince of Monaco. This wedding was huge. So in April 1956, Grace would begin her wedding festivities. This was a big wedding for Monaco. With family and friends, Grace would sail on the USS Constitution towards Monaco. So they were on a giant boat. So along with her and her family, Grace also had 56 pieces of luggage. This was,
my God.
Yeah. So this was her first transition to moving to Monaco. This girl had so many clothes.
Gotta have all the fashion.
So many shoes. I would be jealous. I'm jealous.
Right? I don't think I could even pack up 56.
Oh, she had people do that.
Right.
So along with her luggage was her wedding dress. Her wedding dress has quite the story to it. So the custom dress was made by Helen Rose of MGM. Her dress was absolutely gorgeous. I was looking at pictures. There was like a whole like slideshow. I was looking at of photos from like her wedding, like the wedding week and stuff like that. Oh my gosh. She had 2 wedding dresses technically. And then she had like all of these other dresses for like a garden party and stuff. Like, oh, this wedding was like the talk. It was huge. And her wedding dress is like, I don't think it's the most iconic wedding dress, but it was beautiful. I have to admit, it was beautiful. Like her church wedding dress.
Yeah.
Oh, it was gorgeous. So this would be Grace Kelly in her career was known for her elegance and beauty, and her sense of fashion resembled as much. Like it was very simple, but it was elegant. And it was very she made people want to dress like her, very like sophisticated, but also very kind of like trendsetter. So this would also be done for her wedding dress. So she was going to be a princess, and royal weddings are grand. She wanted something more simple yet elegant for her wedding dress. She didn't want it to be big and poofy and wild. She wanted something more kind of like, not conservative, like but classic. Kind of more classic. Yeah.
Classy. Yeah.
So her dress has a simple ballroom skirt with a long sleeve lace top with floral motifs just like everywhere. Like it was like a long sleeve. It was it's gorgeous. So attached to like the skirt part of it was this huge cathedral train that just went. It's not the longest train that I have seen, but it's still pretty freaking long. And there's bows like down the back center of it. Okay. Like it's very fashion forward. It gives me very French vibes for it. But there was like a lot of lace, a lot of like kind of floral textures to it.
But it wasn't too much. Like it was still like
it was it was it's very like subtle. It's not as like extravagant as like some other ones.
Right.
But she also had a very long like veil that came down, a very lace veil, and it came when she flipped the top of it. It came down to like pretty much like her collarbone.
Okay.
But it had like it wasn't a tiara. It was kind of like it was like a headband, but it had like all these kind of like emblem type stuff on it. And then her flowers were very simple too. Like they were kind of just not a lily of the valley, but it was very simple. Like it wasn't extravagant for sure.
I'll have to see if I can find a picture.
Oh, you can find it
for the Instagrams.
It was up. I don't think it's on display anymore, but it was on display at one of the museums. It was like fashion or something like that. I don't know, but her dress, like it was prime. She looked beautiful in it, for sure. So the crazy thing about this dress is that it was actually transported in a box shaped like a coffin.
Oh my God.
They did this so it would fool the media, so no one would be able to like figure out where her dress is or like get a glimpse of it into like.
Wouldn't you want to know why there's a coffin? Like, wouldn't you want to get a picture of that?
Maybe they thought it was like a dead dog or something. I don't know.
Dog. Oh my God.
But yeah, it was like shaped like a coffin. So like, I guess it fooled them because no one spoiled it.
Oh my God.
Oh God. So this big cathedral dress that we saw, and this was also filmed on TV. Like the entire wedding was filmed on TV, the cathedral wedding or the ceremony. But she also had like another simple dress that she would wear. This one was more kind of a classic wedding of the 1950s, 1960s. They were kind of like the ankle dresses.
Okay.
It was something a little bit more simple like that.
Right.
But again, they had it, she had it custom made by the MGM Studios, which that's pretty impressive to get that acceptance. So before the big day, April 19, 1956, on the 18th, Grace and Prince Rainier would have a civil ceremony at the Palace of Monaco with only close friends and family. So they had a very low-key one, kind of just something on like the smaller side, which I think she always kind of wanted.
Yeah.
But of course, like you're marrying a prince, so you have to have something that's like huge and massive. And she's like, okay, whatever. But she wanted something smaller as well. Mm-hmm. And what better place to have it than at the palace you're going to live in?
Right.
So for the civil ceremony, Grace would wear like a 2-piece dress made of lace colored, that was colored pink. So it was like a nice kind of blush color.
Well, that's fun.
Oh, it's really gorgeous. So April 19th would soon come around, and it was the wedding of the century. There were so many people excited for the wedding, especially all of the people in Monaco. And it was so big that huge bags of congratulation letters were brought in. Like, there's a picture of it where, like, this lady is carrying this huge, like, duffel bag that Santa carries, and there's just letters in them.
Oh, my God.
I'm like, damn. You can't send everybody a thank you.
Yeah, no.
So thousands watched as Grace Kelly entered the church for the Catholic Mass ceremony in her long cathedral dress, and the two would be married. Do bells, do 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 do. I can't make a bell noise. Yeah. So coming out of the ceremony, Grace and Rainier would be in a bougie Rolls Royce. It's so nice. This wedding got even more wild when they had a 7-tiered cake that weighed 200 pounds.
Oh my God.
Yes. The wedding was glamorous like her new life, but good things do come with a price. This price would be leaving her dream career.
Mm.
With getting married to a prince, this would make Grace a princess. And with this new title came new responsibilities. Prince Rainier made it clear to the press that he didn't want his wife to work, so that meant a big decision Grace would have to make. She decided it was time to let her acting career go and have her complete focus as princess.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Annoying.
Imagine if she didn't. How many more movies she would be
I know.
in. The sad thing is that she convinced herself that she wouldn't get any more good roles as she was getting older.
Mm.
And I'm like,
I mean,
don't do
yeah,
that.
at that time,
Yeah.
probably, because there's constantly like new women coming
Yeah.
to Hollywood.
But I mean, she's iconic.
Right. She would have definitely had a few more really big roles.
I think so. And even though she would give up acting, this did not mean she left behind her knack of being a fashion icon. Around the world, Grace Kelly would be labeled as best dressed, and even today, she has her own elegant, simple look that is also called the Grace Kelly look. It was tough in the early years of Grace becoming a princess. Rainier was constantly traveling for business, so Grace was often left to figure things out on her own.
Mm.
She was in a country that she didn't know, that she wasn't familiar with. She didn't grow up with it. And the difficult part was the language barrier. So between her and the staff, she did not understand French, so it pushed her to learn the language. And along with learning this new language came the behaviors she was expected to have. To be more kind of recluse, to be more proper, quiet, obedient.
Like the opposite of what she's done her whole life.
Exactly. So Grace from an early age was taught mannerisms and how to be elegant, but being a princess also has a new set of rules, especially when you're in a different country. Everybody has different rules,
Right.
different norms, and it's even more different when you're being placed into a higher status.
Mm-hmm.
So this meant different ideologies, and she was not familiar with how royals act. I mean, why would she know? She could no longer be in the shell inside. She had to step out of her comfort zone and also be in the public eye, be the proper lady everybody expected out of a royal. She could no longer just blow off the press. Like, that was something she could not do. She had to confront them, be face to face, forward with them, and she hated it. You could tell she hated it because she would much rather just do her own thing, but you have expectations. You can't do that.
Right.
So the following year came around and Grace was pregnant with her first child. The interesting part of Grace being pregnant with her first child is that she made herself even more a fashion icon out of this.
Hell yeah.
So she had a bag specifically made by Hermes that she carried in front of her that hid her stomach so the press couldn't get photos of her.
Dang.
So she cock blocked it with her bag.
I love her.
Of getting it. So this kid would be Princess Caroline, and she would be born in 1957. But this became so big. Like, people still use it today. Like, celebrities still use it. They use it in like TV shows and stuff, like the big bag, and they call it the Grace Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, who freaking knew? Like, she hated the press so much.
She's such a savage. I love it.
She's like, I don't want them anywhere near my pregnancy. So she went to Hermes and was like, hey, I don't want to be noticed.
I need the biggest bag I can find.
Literally. Savage. I love her. So the heir to the throne, Prince Albert, would be born in 1958, and their younger daughter would be Princess Stephanie, who would be born in 1965. So the first two were pretty close, and then the third one was pretty far. So in this time, she was offered roles to get back into the limelight, but again and again, Grace would refuse. Instead, she decided to use her power as princess to do some philanthropy work. There's a lot of different reasons behind why she didn't go. Some were saying that she had a miscarriage and it just really brought her down. She's like, no, I don't want to do this anymore. Some were like, some excuses were that the people in Monaco didn't want to see her kissing another man. It's a whole ordeal.
It's a lot to risk.
Yeah. And so she was just like, I don't even want to step into that kind of stuff. I would much rather do something else.
Could also be her just being a mom too.
Exactly. So Grace would focus on improving... Layla, you are on my thing. Grace would focus on improving art institutions in Monaco, but creating the Princess Grace Foundation in 1964. This foundation would help local artisans. So local artists she would help out, or even like in theater. So it was more than just artists, it's just theaters. Pretty much the arts. Grace would also found AMADE Monadale, a nonprofit organization to help all children possible. This organization is now being ran by her daughter, Caroline. Gotta give them something to do since they are not enthroned.
Yeah.
So Grace had a lot going for her while being princess, but it can still be quite lonely when you're on your own, especially when your husband is gone for a long period of time and you are struggling to still fit in.
Gave up on all your dreams.
Exactly.
Just for that.
So a tragedy would strike in 1960 when she received news that her father, Jack, had terminal cancer. It devastated her when he passed. Over the next decade, Grace left Monaco often with her kids to Paris or even the U.S. just to get some space. She could not stay there for long periods of time. It made her very lonely. She just hated it. She's like, I want to get out. I want to go do something. I want to get involved with as much as I can, not home.
Yeah.
And of course, she would always take her kids with her because she loved her children.
Right.
So the unthinkable occurred in 1982. So she was sad. She wasn't really happy. She was trying to make the most of it, and drinking became a pretty big thing for her to go to, which often happens when you kind of feel that isolation.
Right.
And people started to notice that she was drinking more and more, that she was kind of like, I don't really care much about stuff. And it was devastating in 1982. So on September 13th, at the age of 52, Grace Kelly and her daughter Stephanie would leave the family country home in Monaco. Grace would drive a 1972 Rover 3500. Grace was not a big driver, especially on the very winding roads of Monaco, but she was taking some dresses for alterations and took up a large section of the car. So normally she would always have some sort of drivers drive her to wherever, but she just wanted to get out of the house, get some dresses altered. Stephanie decided she wanted to go with her, and those dresses took up the backseat of the car, so she decided to drive. But yeah, she hated driving those windy roads because Monaco is very notorious for those. So as they were driving, Grace would suffer a stroke and would swerve off the cliff of the road that they were driving. The car would roll several times before stopping on the roof. Stephanie would survive with a fracture to her neck, but Grace was not as lucky. Unresponsive by the paramedics upon arrival, she would be taken to the hospital and put on life support. There was too much damage, though, that Grace would not come back from. On September 14, 1982, Grace would be taken off the life support would shortly pass. It was a sad day for the people in Monaco to lose their princess, but also for the rest of the world that looked at Grace Kelly and saw more than just a princess, but as a talented actress, philanthropist, and a fashion icon. Movies would be made of Grace in 1983 and in 2014. Prince Albert would go on purchasing his mother's childhood home and restoring it to its former glory when his mother lived there. So this also got put on to like a historical landmark. Mm-hmm. Grace's foundation is still thriving to this date, and she still has inspired many. In 1984, she inspired pop artist Andy Warhol, who made a portrait of her and displayed it at the Institute of Contemporary Art.
Wow.
Even though not everyone has seen her movies or known about Grace Kelly's step into royalty, she was a bombshell of the 1950s and was a graceful one at that.
Graceful.
Yep. She brought a lot into the world and did so with elegance and leaving a legacy that is going to be remembered for a very long time. That is the story of Princess Grace Kelly.
Oh my gosh, I love her.
Yeah, she's great.
What a life.
Yeah, it was, oh God. Just her death was just so surprising for
crazy.
everybody. Because at first they were like, how the hell did this happen?
I didn't know she had a stroke. I like knew about the accident, but I didn't know she, oh my God.
Yeah, they determined that it was a stroke of some sort. Because some people thought it was like some mental stuff. And they're like, no, it was a stroke. Like she didn't purposely swerve off with her daughter in her car.
Right.
So that is Grace Kelly, and that is how we're ending February.
All right, stay tuned for March.
Oh,
The
God.
theme is luck. No, I'm just kidding. I don't
Oh, no. Oh, that actually gives me ideas. We'll see.
Good luck, bad luck. Who knows?
Good luck, bad luck. We will determine.
Oh, yeah, we will.
So where can you find us?
You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Historia the Podcast. You can email us at historiathepodcast@gmail.com.
Ooh. We will catch you guys next week for another good episode.
Yes, we will. All right. It's almost 1 a.m., so we gotta bounce.
We bouncing.
Good night.
Bye.
Goodbye.